The way you make love, sweet darling. That ain't the way you make love. You've been turning around uptown with some fancy clown, with some fancy clown. You've been turning around uptown with some fancy clown, with some fancy clown. I hear you in the background.
One of the unusual things about this group is that each guy in the group can lead. Any guy in the group can do it.
Straight out the Ville. It's the BackAlley Podcast.
They said we could never make it. They said
Still ain't got it bumping. In the back alley. Taking shots of whiskey and only go.
All right, 1, 2, 3 in the place to be. It's your brother Mike
What's up,
D,
people?
brother 6, PT. You know, we all in the building and we here. BackAlley Fellas Podcast. Thank you one and all for joining us. We got some special guests in the building. Got my man T Wells, Jimmy Rayford, a long time with the gray, looking like he looking like he out there in the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? Out there in the wilderness, brother. He looking like Moses around there. He out there in the wilderness now. You know what I'm saying? But yo, welcome everybody. Before we get started, y'all know what we do. We like to give a shout out to everyone, our first time, last time viewers, and those that continue to rock with us. We appreciate you. Continue to grow with us. Continue to comment, and we appreciate you, brother 6. How you doing, beloved?
Doing good, dear brother. I'm just I'm really excited about the guests we have tonight. I want to give a shout out to the Almighty and to Louisville and to all those people I know and respect and love. Tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. 23rd is in the house. What's going on with you, Fat T?
Hey man, if this dude says Louisville one more time, I'm going.
Yeah, I
For everybody that's just now listening, that just made us, it's Louisville. So if you are from Louisville, it's Louisville. Do not come to us talking about no Louisville or no Louisville.
I don't know what's going on.
Getting that from. But praises be to the Most High. I want to give honor to my partner, my brother, my man, Reggie Smith, rest in peace, to his family, to his kids. Welcome to our guest, T, and welcome back, brother Jimmy Rayford. And we're glad to have him back. And you know, I'm just glad to be here. What about you, Big Mike?
You know, all is well, it ends well. You know, I'm just living life, brother. I'm just maintaining. Life is good. I cannot complain. And if I could, it wouldn't make no difference because wouldn't nobody give a damn. So I'm just here. Had a crazy week. Some interesting things. I talked to y'all offline about some things. It was just interesting. Little article came out in the newspaper and somebody from my job had wrote it. and it was crazy. So it's just interesting. But all in all, man, just happy to be here. Happy that my brothers, all of y'all family. So I'm ecstatic that y'all are here. One time to our brother Reggie, and since we got some guests on, I'm gonna ask my man T. How you doing, brother? All is well?
All is well, praises to the Most High, peace, love, and respect to everybody. I come with nothing but positive vibes. So
Indeed,
I appreciate
indeed.
the opportunity for being here.
Indeed,
That's what's
indeed.
up.
Brother Jimmy, what's up with you?
Brother
I'm
Jim.
good. I'm good, bro. I'm glad you hit me up. I just wanted to. I just need to be in you fellas' presence tonight. Have a good time and chop it up a bit. So I'm glad to be in the house.
Indeed. So before we get started in our routine, got to go around the horn. Some of y'all, if y'all know, y'all know. So Big Pat, what you got in your cup?
This is my hood concoctions.
Oh shit.
This is a mixture of, you gotta remember everything I put in here. So this is not for the faint at heart. If you
Please don't do this. Yeah, don't do this.
Don't even attempt this. So
No.
this is Pineapple Amsterdam, Christian Brothers, Grenadine, Coke, and some simple syrup.
You brought out the Christian Brothers.
So if you ain't an OG, don't even think about it.
Good God Almighty. Praise God.
But in all due fairness, as I was mixing it, I kept tasting it and it tastes right. So I kept adding stuff. So I didn't just make that up. As I was putting stuff in there, I was like, oh, that is totally nasty. So I just kept adding stuff until I could get it to where I could drink it.
Boy,
that simple syrup came in at the ends. Like, let me use the simple syrup.
Hey, you know what? That was the last thing that went in.
That's been there before. You done been there before.
Brother Six, what you sipping on? What's in your cup?
I got some sweet red.
That's
Yes,
sweet
sir.
red wine. I heard
In the
that.
cup.
I heard in the cup. T, you got anything you sipping on, brother?
Brother, I'm drinking from the fountain of youth. This is God's water right here. With a little bit of lemon.
All right,
my health kick.
Hi, man. Jimmy, what you sipping on?
Oh man, I got me a little IPA.
Okay.
So Wisconsin IPA.
Yeah, that brother right there. He a beer drinker. IPA. He don't Pat Six. He don't do beer like we do. We drink beer. If they get beer, that's what he do, IPAs and things like that, with high alcoholic.
IPA is.
There you go.
At least 40 years.
Yeah.
Is that an ale or something?
It's an ale. Yep.
It's an ale. It's kind of hoppy.
Oh, okay.
Hoppy. So
that's that rich people beer right there.
no, it ain't. No, it ain't.
We from the hood.
You got Budweiser right here. IPA is just right there above.
I don't know about that. Everybody know what P-Water. Everybody know what Budweiser is. You go to the hood and ask them what an IPA. They be like, man,
IPA.
my kids ain't got no IPA. They smart.
Hey, to be honest with you, when he said it, I thought it was some kind of health water or something.
No, it ain't that.
Hey, so listen, I'm just drinking on a little tea concoction, peach crown, sweet tea, a little bit of granny's tea is what I call it, So let's get it started, man. Let's raise it up. Pat, don't mess up.
I'm not.
All
Bottles, glasses, cups that are plastic, alleyways backwards, perfection takes practice. Friendship turned kinship, 2/3 of the street dynasty.
Brotherhood from the neighborhood. This podcast is going to be a classic. A divine state of mind, our movement sublime. On the rocks, brother, give me something strong.
I can give you a mix of slice of lime. Put your drink up. Now let's link up. There's nothing but love in this atmosphere. Peace, salutations, brothers and sisters, the fellas. We in here. Cheers.
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 Hey, that's pretty good now, though. Hey, at the end, I'll send out the recipe for anybody.
Now, don't worry about that. At the end, when we see him fall over, just pick him up. Go pick him up.
He ain't gonna fall over all that damn simple syrup he probably put in there.
He's gonna be running around the house. He ain't gonna be trying to go to sleep and run at the same time.
Breathe in midair jumping.
That's it.
So you heard anything out the back alley, Thomas?
Yeah, I heard there's been talk about gentrification. So I think we're going to discuss gentrification tonight. So before we get started, for those that have been here, like Mike said, if you know, you know, I typically give out what the dictionary says. Now we don't always agree with the dictionary's definition is, but I'm gonna give it out there just for your knowledge. So the dictionary says gentrification is the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving the housing and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process, or the process of making someone or something more redefined, polite, or respectable. And I'm going to start off by saying, I'm genderfying six. That's what I'm trying to do here. It's hard to fight, but I'm trying to gentrify him now.
You can get out the streets, but sometimes the streets stay in you sometimes, man. After 50-something years doing that, it's hard to do, but hey,
I feel you.
You know, time changes everything.
Right. Hey, listen. So I'll be honest, T hit me up, a couple of weeks ago and said a few things, and maybe you could touch on it. This is why we talked about it, because he was like, yo, man, check this out. And was looking at, I think it was a house or whatever, and what it cost before and now what it's going for, and then send some things out. And I was like, yo, we come on and let's talk about it, you know? And so I think it's a great opportunity, because we all know that it goes on. We see it in our neighborhoods. We see it in our communities. You can go to Louisville, you can go to Indianapolis. Yeah, you know what it is. So I'm gonna give T the opportunity. Now, T, this is your first time. Jimmy knows. In this conversation, we're gonna sit back and we'll let you go a little bit, but we like to just have the conversation like we on the porch. So we gonna push in, we gonna jump in, we gonna double touch in, but that's how we are. So you ain't gotta wait on saying nothing. Just get in where you fit in. But with that, go ahead and talk to us a little bit about what you saw, why you wanted to, talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So shout out to Big Pat with the textbook definition of gentrification, which I think is crucial, that we not just talk about gentrification, but talk about the difference between gentrification and revitalization. Okay. And so
development,
distinguishing factor between the two, Big Pat talked about the definition coming out the dictionary of forcing people out, the inhabitants that were there prior to. Whereas when you think of revitalization, you think of the term revitalize, you're thinking of giving new life, vigor. In other words, we don't have to force anybody out. You can be a part of this thing, right? The people are already in that existing neighborhood. And I think that one of the big differences there, and the key is, when you think of revitalization, you think of people already in that neighborhood, being a part of the, I'll call it, new community, right? You don't necessarily have to force them out to bring in those new businesses or to bring some life. And so I think a conversation should be had, right? How can our people benefit from a system that wasn't necessarily set up for them to benefit from? I think far too often we find ourselves on the outside looking in, when it's no secret what's happening and what's continuing to happen in a lot of these urban areas. I think the one specifically that I sent to Brother Mike was not far from the town of Speedway, where we know they've done a lot in that area with the racetrack and trying to build that area up and so on and so forth. But I mean, you're looking at properties that you could have purchased for, we'll say, 70 grand in 2019, that now they put some fresh paint on, a little bit of siding, got some people out of there, and now all of a sudden they want 300 plus for the same properties. Some instances we're talking condos, right? So, how can we set ourselves up, for lack of a better term, to flip our own neighborhoods? And I think the conversation should be had. I was kind of giving some notes to myself and kind of looking at some things, but for those of you that don't know, this is becoming such a regular occurrence throughout the country that a lot of corporations, a lot of firms now are buying residential properties. And they're not buying the high-end properties in the suburbs. They're buying low to middle income area, neighborhoods. So,
Mhm.
what can we do? I mean, obviously, we don't have billions of dollars like some of these private equity firms, Blackstone, Invitation Homes, and the likes that we're seeing. I sent Brother Mike an article about them in particular because they're the world's largest private equity firm that does this. They have purchased over 12,000 homes in the Atlanta area alone, and in some instances, over 90% of some neighborhoods. And so,
Wow.
what they've learned is that a lot of these corporations have found out that in some instances, they're considering the real estate investment to be somewhat recession proof. We know that stocks, have a roller
Mhm.
coaster effect. Real estate is cyclical too, but not to the detriment of like the stock market falls, real estate doesn't automatically go down. It's more connected to other things in the economy, such as interest rates, things of that nature, people making good on their mortgages. So I think we need to talk about, how we can position ourselves to one, see the value in our own neighborhoods, right? I think the conversation needs to be had far too often. People from our community get a piece of change, and what's the first thing we do? Move out of that
But
neighborhood.
you know why though?
And we could talk about that. Let's go ahead. We could talk about
Yeah,
better
but
schools and
part
so
of that,
forth.
I loved everything you said, but as I thought about it, I reflect back to conversations that we've had on here, and I'm kind of the one that's usually over to the left because part of that, the gentrification and the revitalization versus each other is we have to change our mindset because what happens is it doesn't take millions of dollars. And one of the reasons that they try to move out people is because we refuse, and I'm speaking only of us. We're not the only ones that are in urban rundown areas, but I'm dealing with us because it's us. I'm not going to speak about nobody else.
Right.
Yep.
You don't change our mindset. It takes me back to a friend of mine. As we was growing up, we had a project area. You went up there, nobody had grass. It was broken bottles and glass everywhere. But when you got to my partner's house, his mother had a little fence up there, had green grass. When you walked in, you never knew you was in the projects except for the bricks on the walls on the inside. But that was her mindset. And you know what? Everybody respected that. They walked through, they threw bottles and busted glass everywhere, but my partner's, I don't want to say their name, but my partner's mother's yard.
Right.
So when you talk about revitalization, all we have to do, you wouldn't believe what a good coat of paint and some grass and paint the fence would do.
Pat, real quick.
Take the property value up.
Pat, I want you to real quick, because I'm starting to lean more towards. I think last week we talked about this. I'm starting to lean more towards the your thought process. This 90% of what versus
And for Brother T and Jimmy, what I said was, I love our people. I love our people, but I'm tired of ninjas. I'm just going to use the word ninjas. Back, the difference was through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was 80, 90% of good, hardworking Black people trying to make a difference in the community, trying to work, how to get jobs. And you had them few ninjas, but they pushed them out. Hey, we don't want drugs right here. We don't want this right here. They had their one little area that they operated in because nobody else would let them come to their neighborhoods with that mess. Now, you got about 80, 90% of ninjas and 10, 15, 20% of good, hardworking Black people, in my opinion. And what's happening is we're accepting too much. Walking around, I seen a guy, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it does. I seen a guy the other day, brother, entire butt hanging out. I don't want to see your whole butt, but we as a people accept that. Our women accept it. So in our neighborhoods, if we clean them up, we can revitalize them, and it won't cost billions of dollars. I think.
Well, so Jimmy and Six, I want to get y'all in there. So jump in at any point. I'm reminded of a conversation I had with my man John Jeter the other day, and looking forward to getting him on. This would have been a perfect one. Yeah, but he's a good brother. You know what I'm saying? Okay. He used to work for the Washington Post. So he's traveled the world, and so he was talking a little bit. He was giving some history on some of the things that we were, talking about as far as, this system and how, and again, I pull up this book, The Color of Law, which kind of talks about some of the things that we talked about. You know, the subtitle was A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America. So when we talk about certain things and we talk about revitalization versus gentrification, so if I was to go down Indianapolis in an area where at the time my ex-wife and my babies used to live, like right off of 30th in Talbot, which is down the street from the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, if you know, one of the best children's museums in the country, hands down, one of the best children's museums in the country. Now, I remember this neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I used to always joke that 38th Street is like Broadway, in my opinion, you know, in Louisville. So if you on 38th going towards Meridian Kessler, it's a different type of vibe housing. As a matter of fact, when you come down Meridian Street, if you on 46 in Meridian is the governor's mansion, 40th in Meridian, 38th in Meridian. You cross 38th in Meridian, look at here. We on another side of something. It's only about 6 or 7 blocks, really, difference. However, now they built what they call the red line busing. You know that there's some revitalization that's coming on and some gentrification. And if you go further down on Talbot, you can literally, I remember these houses. And I remember on the news, the crime that you would hear about. I don't hear that those neighborhoods at all anymore. And one of the reasons I think is that sometimes I think they allow things to happen to devalue the system. I'm looking at some stuff where they zone certain things and they allow it to happen. And then you get that then you're able to buy people out. And then what they do is they'll give you Section 8 and it'll be out in the burbs now. It'll be out. But it's a place where the buses don't maybe run anytime. So they're starting to move closer and closer to downtown. And the more you get into downtown, you start to see the houses. And I'm looking at these houses and I'm looking at the neighborhoods. I'm like, boy, it didn't look like this some years ago. Right. And now they go on.
Would you say that they're doing gentrification?
Oh, absolutely.
Because revitalization, they would keep the same people in there.
Oh no,
they wait until the property gets at its lowest, then they're pushing people out, they're buying it low, fixing it, and then pricing it to where those same people can't get it. So then they're actually, in essence, changing the people that are there, even though they might still look like you and I. It's different than the people that was there.
Yeah, and it's happening all over the country. It happened in my neighborhood. If you go back into my neighborhood right now, down on 23rd, where I was raised, it's all empty now. And my mother is 70-something years old, you know, so she's older. So, and she moved out, and with the new people moving in that neighborhood when it was live, you know, Mike, you stayed next door, Pat, you stayed across the street. If you go there now, that whole section is gone now. So it definitely happened to us. And here we are talking about it. And man, we lived that. And here we are talking about it because my mom didn't, you know, the people that lived there, they was like, okay, you know, whatever, you can buy my property, ain't no good.
No. We knew that they was coming. It flooded them out.
We knew. Me, you, Pat, you know, my mom's them, our mom's them though, the people that lived there, they was like, you know, oh, I'm ready to sell, or, you know, right. I don't know how it happened or what happened, but we've seen it though.
Yeah,
and I think that to this day, it's like, man, it happened to us too.
It's crazy. Jimmy, jump in if you want to, bro.
Yeah, you think it's a we have some kind of invisible forces at play, right? So you got, you know, the system is what the system is. I think the economic model, the revitalization economic model, could be different than the gentrification economic model, because I think the invisible forces are going to always keep those property values don't change when the people look like us, even in a revitalized neighborhood, to the extent that they change when the new folks come in. Absolutely. So just looking at it purely from investment financial thesis, you almost have to go into it a little bit with a different expectation, unfortunately, from a revitalization standpoint, because I don't think you're going to see the same level of appreciation that they enjoy when it's a gentrification method. You almost have to there's almost a social cause that you have to bake into it to really go and do it. And I think the other thing for me is there's a big education component. There's a lot of secrets they keep away from us. There's all sorts of affordable housing tax credits. So you get these. I mean, I know people who are off the charts wealthy doing real estate investment, and as long as they have, 20% of the project as quote unquote affordable housing, they get all unbelievable tax credits. And it's just things that it's like this hidden secret that we don't know about. So we think about like this big multi-million-dollar project, how on earth are we going to be able to do that without knowing all of the resources available? So I think there's a high education component that we're going to have to because this can be done.
Yeah.
If I can piggyback off of Jimmy's comments there. So he brought up some great points about education. He talked about, some social invisible things at work. And I'll just say we're kind of dealing with what I'd consider a economic justice issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to something like that, education is definitely key. So like, how do we get people to understand that you have to prepare yourself for these opportunities? Because when preparation meets opportunity, great things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the definition of success. So ultimately, how do we get folks educated to some of the programs that are out there, like a NACA and these different other programs that give out grants and advocate for first-time home buyers? Because what we've seen, even though the value might be at a different level, if you can have that same neighborhood with minority populations, people of color, what have you, if you have more ownership in that neighborhood versus renters, you typically see the values go up in that neighborhood, right? More people are vested. But something else we notice too, when that neighborhood changes, the streets look better. They're patching up potholes. Again, that's economic, right? So that means getting in contact and knowing who your local councilman is, for your neighborhood and your area, complaining about that house that's boarded up, right? Lifting up complaints about some slumlord that has a couple of properties on your street that's letting things go downhill. And be honest with you, when it comes to gentrification, it's going to happen no matter what. Whereas I'm a huge proponent of revitalization, knowing that gentrification is on the table, because let's be honest, there's zoning meetings that happen way before it occurs.
Oh man,
I was in Indianapolis when the town of Speedway was talking about everything they were going to do in 2008, 2009. I was in commercial real estate at the time. So when it comes to commercial real estate, we're buying properties, we're seeing a thing before it becomes a thing. I remember closing on 2 stations up in Noblesville at the time. This is back in 2008, 2009 timeframe for $4 million. 2 stations that used to be, BPs that we branded something else. Well, I'm sure, I don't know what that number is today, but I bet it's a lot higher than $4 million.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Again, Noblesville wasn't quite Noblesville back then, and so on and so forth. So it's about seeing a thing before it's a thing. And so, when they have those planning and zoning committees, attend those meetings. It's open to the public. They have to put up signs. They have to notify the public that things like that are going on.
Let me, and I agree. Let me tell you something. And this is just how God works sometimes. So family member, say no names, attended the event out on the West Coast. Didn't want to go. It was like, come on through. It was late in the evening. They was going through this little alley, with some friends. Went back route to this hotel or something. Had to punch in a code to get in. Went in. Room. nice bar, bunch of people in. Everybody in the room are investors. This is where in that city, the people that make the bread and run it, that's where they go. You don't go to this bar, like you don't see this room. You got to know somebody to get in this room. But this is where everything happens. Everything that you talked about. So when it's laid out on the floor, they have already had their bites at it. They've already divvied up what they doing, how it's gonna work, and we just getting them little pieces of it. I say that to say that as Jim, there's an invisible hand that's always at play. And it's in every city, in every spot that's already happening. Now, shout out to Jack and Jill. This is, if you want to know, and I said this before, Jimmy, T, we all met on play dates that our wife put us on through Jack and Jill. That's how we became family. That's how we became friends. So shout out to Jack and Jill, because I met some good brothers in that. I see it, one of the greatest things that they could do is something that Wu-Tang said in one of their songs. My seed marry his seed, marry their seed. That's how we keep Wu-Tang money all up in the family. The best thing that we could do is matchmake these families and put them together. I said, if you took our chapter and the Indianapolis chapter, and you took Links, it's another organization, you took most of the fraternal and sorority organizations that are probably a part of all of these different things, and we said, this is the area that we're gonna focus on, and we're gonna buy homes in there. Because see, the reason I say this, Pat Six, is they like us. These are parents, these are men that before I knew what girl dad was, from Kobe, this what all of y'all are. You know what I'm saying? These are men and women that go to PTA meetings. These are people that are active in the community in a lot of different ways. So I said, if we interjected, if we did what we used to do back in the day, we go back into our neighborhoods, we would instantly change schools, public schools like this. It don't take long. And we may not get the same, as Jimmy said, the same investment. We may not have the same appreciation in our homes, but perhaps in the long run, it may not get there. Perhaps as a social experiment contract, we should be like, we not in that for that right now. We in it to expand and bring the people up that don't have that now, because it's a group of us. Pat, you know this. Many of us know this, coming up, we didn't start at this space. It took us a minute. We had to be around people. So those that know, if we interject with those people that don't necessarily know, we can change it to where in our neighborhoods, we can have a wide swath.
That's easier said than done, though, Mike. So I agree with you. Hold on, just hear me out. I agree with you, and I don't. And I gotta say this before I forget, because y'all know I'm mine. So
go ahead, Big Pat.
Two things that Brother T and Brother Rafer said is, one, to fix for it. I think you would ask Brother T, how do we fix it? Well, one way we fix it is what we're trying to do now. So we need to try to get this. We're small, we're local, whatever right now, but we're trying to get the word out that there's other things, there's other methods, there's other ways, which I want to invite you back, because you seem very, 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 very knowledgeable. So Mike, we need to figure out a show that we don't really do no talking. We just bring on Brother T and let him teach, whether it be on gentrification, if it's on real estate. It seems like you're some kind of connected to real estate, just me listening to you, and let him teach, because we got to get the word out there. Part of the problem is there's 5 of us.
Education.
But we need to get that's where the education that Brother Jimmy was talking about was educating, getting it out. The second part, real quick, Mike, is I hate to keep going back to it, but the problem is there's so many ninjas now, there's not enough of us. If we were to get together, there's not enough people that I believe that will listen, because these ninjas then took over like roaches. So Yeah, they coming to the PTA meetings now. You go to the PTA meetings, they there with their pants, a grown man with his kid at the PTA meeting, and his whole butt is hanging out. But what I was gonna say before I forget this is it's the educational level. We're kind of focusing on either gentrification or revitalization in the urban low income, but it's happening in the more affluent neighborhoods, but it happens a little differently. I'm gonna tell you this real quick. So South Carolina is basically, well, Columbia is basically two major counties, Richland and Lexington. Back 15 years ago, most of the people that are not our skin color were living in Richland County. The taxes were the lowest, people had acreage, and then all of a sudden, all these military people, because Richland County is the home of Columbia, Fort Jackson. So these people started retiring, getting out, buying homes. So now you have African-American people buying $300,000 and $400,000 homes. So now here's what happened. They moved out to Lexington, but watch this. From 2005 to now, all the property taxes in Richland County have skyrocketed and all the property taxes in Lexington have dropped. Why do you think that is?
The game.
So now, I live in a neighborhood with houses 300 to 400,000 that's 80 to 90% Black, but our property taxes are 3 times. The same builder that built my house is building houses in Lexington, and their property tax is almost half of what we pay.
It's the same game. It's like what John was talking about, and I'm gonna let you get into. He talked about, it's a guarantee. We like this system is not going to be able to sustain itself because there's a guarantee. The state has guaranteed that corporations are going to make a profit, and you can't sustain that because all you're going to do is print money. Yeah.
Before I forget the last part, the point to that is, but we have enough Congress members, council members, state members that need to fix that. And we go along too much is the point that I was getting at. I never got to the final point.
Yeah. I think
one of our, I guess it's council members, city council members, whatever, she lives right around the corner from me. So there's enough people that look like us that sit on city council, that sit on local government. And somebody's got to say, why the hell are the property taxes in Richland County so much higher than the property taxes in Lexington? Problem is we don't. I don't know, Pat. I watched something the other day that came on, and it was in Tennessee, and it was a councilman in Memphis, and I won't go back because T, I want you to jump in, and because I don't want to go off topic, but it was a councilman, a Black councilman in Tennessee, in Memphis, and they were asking because they had one Republican person that showed up to this particular meeting, and they all were asking, how is it that someone from outside of Memphis recommended it was like an ordinance on how the police, where the police should live and how they should work. And it was outside of the people in Memphis. They never came to them. So people from outside of Memphis were legislating what Memphis police should do and how they should do. And they was like, how do y'all do that? And they raised it. But guess what? It's still, whatever they try to do, it still got passed because they had the majority. Yeah. And so it wasn't that they wasn't speaking up. They just put it on they put it out there that like, we couldn't go out there and do that, and nor would we want to. But you have the nerve to do that. So I don't know if it's not that they don't do it. I think that I agree. The system the system is what it is. So T, go ahead, brother. And Jimmy, whenever you get a chance, bro.
I mean, everything Big Pat was speaking on, I think really encompassed back to that term economic justice. I think what we have to realize is that there's strength in numbers and strategy. And even if you have, the ninjas, as you call them, present, and they may have numbers, where they lack a lot of times is in strategy. So if you can put those two things together, you can outflank them, right? That's Army. You know that, Mike. I mean, it's one thing to have numbers, another thing to have strategies, right? We do
Pat,
reconnaissance missions,
just-
we outflank them, we catch you when you're not expecting it. So you got to have a strategy, right? Anytime you're going into something, and we lack that because in order to have a strategy, we got to come together as a community. So I'm gonna go back to that C word, a community. That being said, I think control what you can control. And so I said earlier, it's not a thing until it's a thing. And so we talked about taxes. I heard somebody bring up, I think Big Mike mentioned legislation. You got people trying to influence the legislation in areas they don't even live in. Well, that goes back to, again, strategy and numbers. We got to vote, right? I mean, there are some invisible powers at play, but when I talk about control, you can control, our vote matters, right? We got to make our vote count. But if the same people in those neighborhoods we're talking about that are disenfranchised, that are basically being counted out and forced out, if they're not going out and voting in their own best self-interest, it's tough to get the help or assistance that we need to make these plans come to fruition. So I think, again, control what you can control. We got to vote. We got to get our credit together. And again, this is not low income. This is everybody. This is even just a black thing. This is anybody that wants better. You know, we talk about being able to have ownership, first time home buyers. Control what you can control. Get your credit together. Oh, well, I can't afford it. You can't afford not to. If I show you what that higher interest rate's going to cost you, if I show you what these loan sharks going to do to you.
You're paying the higher interest rate because you didn't get your credit together.
There you go. You know, and with the tax problem you talked about, the same people that were voted in that impose that stuff can be voted out.
Yeah,
I can't
and that's what I was going to say with Brother T. For those, I'm going to go out on a limb and say what I think that he's also telling y'all, that anybody that's listening, we got to get out of just voting for the president, because it ain't the president that's doing this.
That's it.
Show up in numbers for the president, but you don't vote for your city council,
want to count,
your congressman, and
government.
All this stuff is happening. You got to go to the non-presidential elections.
Make a change of them judges. And
Jimmy, you got something?
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on Brother Pat a little bit on the this.
No, we ain't doing that.
this ninja characterization.
Come on, get on my side, Jimmy. I need somebody.
I think we got to be careful. Ghettos were strategically created. Hoods were strategically created. They are intentionally under-resourced. So I'm 100% about personal accountability. I hate as much as you hate. I don't even understand why anybody is comfortable to even walk around with your pants, down like that. But that's really a symptom more than it is the root cause. Because I can't say, if I lived in a community where there's nothing telling me that I should have hope, and there's nothing telling me that I have a future, and nobody around me is modeling those things, I can't tell. Hell, I might be walking around with my pants down and not taking care of where I live. So I think we're talking about hundreds of years in this country that's created the situation. So I just say we got to be careful on that outwardly characterization of those brothers and sisters.
But I agree with you if we were only talking about the lower income areas. But I like I said, I don't live in a lower income area. I can go 6 minutes down the road to Walmart and I see it because we're everywhere now. So
But Pat, I don't disagree. But as Joe, I always say, Joe Madison, I always say we tend to maximize the minimum. You know what I mean? We tend to look at the small groups of numbers, and then
this ain't no small group, Mike. This ain't.
It is though, Pat. It really is when you think of the lowest amount of people working class
Jimmy
people
like that, but I know you, and like I told you before, don't neither one of you brothers take it this negatively, okay? I mean,
that means he's about to say something we should take negatively.
Me and Brother Six still go to the hood, so I still go to the hood, but I'm telling you, it's different. See, y'all.
I understand that.
Folks, I'm telling you, you go back down to the hood.
Listen, I know about the east side. I know about the West Side. I know about certain areas in India and even in Louisville, whatever the case may be. I know where I live at, and I know those folks and all of those different things. So I'm not disagreeing what you're saying where we have those people. But I also think this. I think that when we talk about our folks and we talk about this disenfranchised, being disenfranchised and even being disengaged in the process, it's a reason for that.
Yeah,
and so
I agree with you all on that.
Okay, well, listen, you don't have to stop cutting me out, bro. And
there it goes. There it goes.
He want to talk. He like to talk.
Huh?
He like to talk. Go ahead, talk, Mike. Go ahead, walk, talk.
Thank you, brother Six. So when we get to this point of go and drink the drink. When we get to this point of just sitting back and saying, yo, listen, when I say that we could join and bring in, it's as simple as if some of us in numbers that have the education, that have the economic resources, and have the willingness to do things, move back into certain neighborhoods. What happens is that you now become a part of that neighborhood. So when those people that are not doing, they look at your yard, they look at what you're doing, and you out here already helping, you bring those things together. I'm saying this is the same thing that happened in the 50s and 60s, the 70s. These are all the things that we always used to do. So it's no different.
But Mike, I think the 50s and 60s and I think what you're talking about is the unintended consequence of integration. Right. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we didn't have any choices. I mean, there was areas of the city where all Black folks had to live, regardless of what their economic status was.
Yeah. And we should go back to that.
But let's stop talking. Let's talk even on keeping on subject with gentrification and revitalization. We're talking about fantasy and reality.
No, I'm not.
Hold up. Yes, we are, Mike. There's five right now. And you, none of you all can look me in the face and say you're gonna move back to the hood. Because Mike, you talk all of that stuff. You are not gonna move back to the West End because we have gotten ourselves to a certain level. I'm not going back to the hood and mess.
I wouldn't go. Listen, I wouldn't go by myself. No. Listen, I would not go by myself. But if a collective of us said we were going to move back in certain neighborhoods, and we've already identified the homes, the opportunities to build, strategy. And strategy. And so if we identified those things, and as a family, as a collective, we went in and did it. That's what they do all the time. And then they build it up, and then it becomes something new, and then we try to move out to those areas because they made it nice. We have the same work ethic. We have the same genius in us. But I'm saying one person is that King in Selma by itself would have been killed. But when you get 100,000 people that think and look and do the same thing as he and believe in that thing, then they can't stop you. So I'm saying at the point, you know what? That's what I say. He is one of them Negroes. He is one of them. He is one of them people. Remember Six? Hey, remember when we talked about people that talked about color, calling people color? Remember?
Was he not still assassinated?
Do y'all remember when I said there was some people in there that still be calling people colored? Yeah. I think we got one on the line. Go ahead, brother.
If I may interject, while I hear what you're saying, Mike, and I hear what you're saying too, Big Pat, when we talk about strategy, I don't know that anybody has to move back to any neighborhood necessarily to have an impact. And so by that, I'm saying those same people could come together, purchase homes in a certain area, and still make sure that, hey, we're only going to rent to people that are going to take care of these properties. We're going to invest some money in fixing them up. We don't want to put somebody in there that's going to tear them up. We're only going to lease to people that are going to take pride. By the way, they did this in neighborhoods in one of the cities I'm aware of. They revitalized an entire community and told them folks, hey, you stay here. I believe they had to stay there for at least somewhere between 5 and 10 years. So much of their rent went towards the purchase of the home at, once that period was up, and they were able to purchase those homes at fair market value. Now, yes, the houses did appreciate value, but again, things like that can happen. And my thing is, we can be a part of the process, right? if we don't have a seat at the table, because Mike was talking about there's rooms where that stuff is being discussed and we're not there. You know, it's already been talked about. We can create our own table. That's
Thank
where
you,
I'm coming
T.
from.
Hey, Mr. Wales, I'm gonna vote that you can become a permanent member on this, and we're gonna try to figure out. Now listen, I agree with you.
Don't ever listen to nobody that call people colored.
Different with that is the problem is even if you do that method, and don't get me wrong, again, I love our people. I
don't know.
Have the confidence because here's the thing. I'm just a realist. See, I'm a realist. If you do that, let's say 5 of us got together, we invested, we bought a whole block. We said we're only gonna rent to people that will take care of the property, right? Now that takes care of Mike's, more than one. That takes care of what you said. We don't have to move back. The problem with that is the ones that are not gonna tear it up are not renting. Most of them are buying. Once you get yourself together like we have, we buy somewhere. So we still fall into the point or the place that the ones that are renting are still the ones that we're talking about. Ninjas.
No, that ain't.
Pat, you're not giving our people enough credit, Pat. You're not giving our people enough credit.
When you say our people, who are you talking about?
Them ninjas you keep talking about. Whoever they is, that's who I'm talking about.
Most of us, as we would y'all call them ninjas, I call them niggas. When you think about that with that ghetto mentality in the mind, and then you try and then you put together your product of your own environment, you got to remember who set this thing up. So there's going to be no way for anybody that's renting. It's like renting a car. It ain't yours. You just tear it up to put them in a new home when the whole system is set up to get you out in the first place. You do have those ones who are going against the grain. That's not going to agree to anything because of their environment. Look if you put them brothers, you take them rich brothers with the money, and you put them with a certain group, they're only going to date a certain group. They're only going to act a certain way. And you telling me if we go and we take those who don't want to do that, who ain't used to that, ain't educated enough to where they even start. I think that's where we're gonna have to start at, fellas. I think it really starts with educating the ones who don't know and the ones who want to know to get them started somewhere. And that's what this podcast is about. I wanted to hit on that, what Pat was saying earlier about this is what we're trying to do. But truthfully,
all I'm really saying is, look, in the 50s, 60s, you saw little boys that were wearing suits and it was proud to grow up and be able to put a suit on. Now you have to force a kid to put a suit on.
I understand, but
that's all kids. That's all kids. That's all kids.
Yeah,
that's all kids.
But we can't deal with all kids because.
But listen, Pat, they still look at them as looked at those kids with suits on as niggas. They still didn't give them the same rights. So whether they had their pants up or down, they still were looked at in the same way.
Versus revitalization. All I'm saying is it's a different time frame. Is the reason that I keep going off subject with that is because even if we would have had social media back then, you wouldn't have had, if you put 10 young women between 15 and 19 on social media in the 50s and social media in the 90s, you're not gonna have them in the 50s popping booties and it's different.
Yeah, but Pat, but again, you keep looking at what that is, and then and saying that represents everyone. That's like saying that everybody on Love and Hip Hop represents everybody that's black.
No.
We know that it's not.
I'm not saying it's representing everybody. All I'm saying is, in my opinion, one of the reasons they gentrify or use gentrification is because the numbers of ninjas have outgrown the number of working.
No, that's not why they do that. That's not why they do that. They go in there because
hold on, but y'all can't tell me that's what I believe.
Okay, well, I can tell you that your belief is wrong. I can tell you that your belief is wrong. You can believe that, and I can also say that your belief is wrong. That's not why they do that.
Yeah, Pat. The truth of the matter is, I think the last time I read the statistic, if it still holds true, I believe 7 out of 10 white people do not have meaningful relationships with people of color outside of the workplace. In other words, black friends.
I
The
agree
ones
with
that
that.
say, so people gravitate towards what they're comfortable with. And so the reason that's happening, irregardless of who you say has their pants down or whatever, you have a group of people that want to be around a group of people that look like them, that identify with them. Just like you see a group of people that only hire people by default in some instances that look like them. And they say, oh, I didn't mean to discriminate. Well, yeah, but you did, right? You just felt more comfortable with this brother, even though this brother over here was more qualified on paper. You said he or she wasn't a good fit. And we all kind of know what the code word means, right? So I will say you do have that has a role to play in that. But the reason I'll say don't discount the model that I was proposing, because let's just say it is successful. You find some single mothers that are out there, doing their best, going to school, so on and so forth, that we're looking for the type of opportunities we're talking about. And we're successful with, let's just say 10 houses, and they see crime go down in that neighborhood, so on and so forth. Do you realize once you have a successful model like that, the powers that be, some of those invisible powers we talked about, would suddenly bring money to the table and want to invest in what we're doing?
I agree with you, Brother T. But listen, let me just throw this in there real quick. Again, I'm a realist. I want you to know me. Use what you said. Single mother wanting to do well for her kids, got a little credit together. We put her in a nice house. You know what she meet? She meet a ninja. Bring that ninja in the house. Next thing you know, the police done ran over her 3-4 times. They done kicked the door in. This is a still nice, respectable young woman. I've seen it happen. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you something. It's happened with some of my family members.
But
ninja,
Pat,
they bring that ninja in there.
It's not, but that doesn't have to be the whole model.
I get it. I get it.
So what I'm saying is that if we even use that model and we said, okay, instead of single moms, we're looking for first-time family home buyers that still are working on their credit or whatever, or they're working on this. There's a lot of people say, because the thing that we haven't talked about is when we talk about this gentrification and things.
People, but there's some people. I agree. Right. There are some people.
The disposable income piece. So we know that on par, black families, black people, even college educated men, women earn less money than their white counterparts, even with the same degrees or even higher. So we know that disposable income is there. So with that disposable income, when you have areas in the city that they see that are prime, and they can look at, oh, look what they're doing downtown, and look at what they're building, and they can start to see that forecast of what's happening. They see those as investments. And so as those people with their disposable income that don't look like us go and get those home loans, that many of us that have the same credit or whatever may not get the home loans or get subprime, because those were specifically targeted for people that look like us, whether you had the money or not. They start doing those things, they go in and invest. Then what they end up doing is they start pushing those families out more and more and more and more. And then they start buying those houses and coming in. But with us, we're saying we could probably bring people in. And the reason why I say you bring some of us or you group some together is because if I'm paying this amount of money and some of us are going to, we paying X amount of money for the schools and we saying why schools can't do this, we discount the fact that we are some of the main reasons why these things happen. We are in the schools, right. We are advocating for our children.
Let's do a test. Let's do a test real quick, okay? So for everybody that's listening, I'm proposing a test to Brother Mike, Brother Six, and these two new brothers that are with us. Because here's what I'm trying to tell you, and this test will prove it. If, even with our podcast, we're genuinely trying to do something good in the Black community, and we to get listeners. Let's do 2 months of fights, booty popping, and stuff like that, and watch how many followers we get.
I get that, Pat.
Difference, because what I'm trying to tell you is more on that. Now, I'm not saying
no, it's not, Pat. No, it's not, Pat.
Because I can't. Well, let's do the test. Let's do the test.
Listen. You don't even got to do the test. It's already on YouTube. But it ain't just ninjas. It ain't black people. It's everybody.
I got that, Mike. What you got to understand. Hold on.
Go
We
ahead.
can't keep concerning ourselves about everybody else.
But what I'm saying is, Pat, is you grouping black people, ninjas, all of this together, saying everybody is attracted to negativity. This is why the media, this is why the news puts those things in.
But I can't worry about
the test. So what I'm saying is the test is gonna prove itself out. That don't mean that there's more niggas. It's more people, black people, that go and look at negative stuff before they listen to positive stuff. Sometimes even the most righteous person is gonna look at something that's crazy and be like, oh, that's some crazy stuff. That's happened. This is how the media puts things out there. They know the algorithms. So they know that people are gonna do that. That doesn't mean that they want less. That doesn't mean that they don't want to have. That means that people gravitate to that.
They want. Oh, you mixing my words up. I didn't say that they didn't want. I didn't
So
say that.
I'm gonna take a different tack. I'm gonna momentarily concede Pat's point. Let's say Pat's right. Now, what's the implication? I mean, what are you saying is the implication of that point that you're making?
I'm saying, and I'm not saying we can never get where we need to be. So let me point that out. Okay. The reasons and the implications of that is where we are. I'm saying one of the reasons that we don't have better situations as far as economically, financially, everything is because of what we've done to ourselves. Again, let me clarify for anybody that's listening too. I'm not saying that white people don't do this, Asian people don't do this. I can't speak for a white man or a white family. I'm not white. And to be honest with you, I'm not concerned with them. I'm concerned with our people. And I do love our people, but I'm just disappointed in where we're going, where we came from, and where we're headed. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but if just for conversation's sakes, Jimmy, I'm saying 60-40, maybe even 70-30. But it ain't
more on the negative side than the positive side.
So here's my disappointment, and I think this actually is connected to the revitalization conversation. I think whatever that number is, and we can debate it, we'll never really know, 30%, 40%, 50%. I think, and I judge myself harshly this way. I think too many of us who have been fortunate enough to create and have a better situation, as we've been able to move away, we got a proximity problem. We have more or less turned our back on that 70%, 60%, whatever that number is. We have, as a whole, taken on I got mine, you get yours mentality. And I'm more disappointed in those of us who have made it out than I am those of us who are still stuck in the struggle. And I think in order to get that revitalization that we're talking about, that has to change before anything. I agree with you, Pat, that the probability anytime soon that en masse we're going to move back into communities that are struggling right now is probably not going to happen. I don't think we have a move back problem. I think we got a go back problem. We forget moving back. We don't even go back. And I think that is fundamentally, we have to change that mindset. And it's those of us who have the means who are out are going to have to go back in and help create that revitalization and help educate and bring along those brothers and sisters and meet them wherever they happen.
Now, what you said, Jimmy, is good. And that's the point that I was making when I said I don't want to offend none of y'all. Because here's the thing. I still frequent the hood. My family, my whole entire family still lives in the hood. But I'm going to do you one better. The area that I live in South Carolina is probably 75% African-American, maybe even 80%. I was the assistant director and a regional manager for the unemployment office in the hood. So this is a daily basis for me. So what you're saying we should do, I lived it 7 years trying to change the mindset of this group of people we're talking about. So picture this in your mind at an unemployment office. I'm not talking little numbers. I'm talking 200 to 300 people a day came in one of my offices. I had 3 counties, 200 to 300 a day. 60 to 70% of them, literally that high, had felonies. You know what I did? I created a system where we brought in the people from the courthouse and we were teaching them how to get the felonies off of their record, expungements. I'd have 1 or 2 people in the class. Coming in there with rollers and smelling like weed, the job interviews with pajamas on. So I bring them to the side, talk to them. So I was in the community trying to make the difference. But when you do that for 7 years and they tell you, oh man, you put that suit on, you think you somebody. I'm telling you, when you go back, it's different than just reaching back and grabbing a couple of kids out the hood and say, we're gonna try to help them. I worked in the hood as an unemployment director for the unemployment office. And I'm telling you that these ninjas don't care. If we were to go right now and say, hey man, let me talk to you brothers about it. Man, nobody wanna hear that, man.
And you right about that. And we talked about that. I really think that there's steps to it. There's gradual steps to it.
Now, I agree with that.
And you got to meet them where they at. You know, as the doc used to say, I can't give you what you want, so you can want what I have to give. Meaning, I'm gonna come to you and I'm gonna meet you exactly where you at, and I'm gonna try to show you some alternatives. But more importantly, I'm going to ask you a very important question, and I'm gonna be quiet. That is, what do you need from me and others to be successful and to make this thing work? And shut up. Cause see, you live here, I don't. So you know certain situations and things that. And as we continue to grow, because see, it's the same thing that Jimmy, you know, when we had the mentoring program, and we was at the thing when what did I used to say? If we don't show up, if we're not consistent,
right,
it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
The same people that show up to these groups, the same time, if I'm not consistently showing up, and I'm not talking about what you did, Pat, I understand what you're doing. I'm saying for the rest of us, if we are not consistent, then we just like everybody else. And so when you're doing your part, you need other people that's also doing their part that can help prepare them before they come and see you, Pat. See, there's some steps in that even before they get there, they should do that. And even when we're talking about home ownership, you're not just going to change people that are in a state of mind that they live in the projects, they live in Section 8, they don't know how to manage this, and this, and it, and they're going to go to home ownership. There's some baby steps to it. But what are those baby steps? What are they? What does that look like? And how do we build this up? And it goes back to something that Jimmy talked about that I'm gonna go back to our mentor thing. He said, a lot of times we focus on the one that's got the F or the C. We don't even think about the ones that maybe have the A's and B's, but they right there. And I'm using the education piece. We don't think about the people that are right at the cusp of they making it, but any slight slip up and they can tumble down. We focus on the ones that just get out of prison, the ones in the hood, and they need that help too. But what about the ones that are doing what they do, that middle road where most of us, our people are at, that really are working hard, and they climbing, but one slip, they can't afford one slip up.
Right.
How do we help them? See, because if we focus on the extreme, that's a lot of steps to go. What about those people in the middle? And I think that's where we can get that, what do they call it? That low-hanging fruit. I think if we focus in on that, and I wanted to ask you brothers, would y'all be willing to come back so we can have a more further discussion? Because I think that even when those models of what y'all were talking about.
No. You ain't about to pile up no whole bunch of Jack and Jills against me.
See, ain't nobody against you, Pat.
Hey, brother T, let me ask you something. Brother T, I never got the answer to this.
Yeah.
So I had made a comment, and y'all gotta please forgive me, because after multiple combat tours and PTSD and all that,
and that drink you was drinking.
Yeah, that damn drink, that damn syrup.
It's called a
do 32
grenade.
years
You
in
made a
the
grenade.
Army.
It's called a
Hold on. You do
grenade.
32 years in the Army and go to multiple combat tours. I promise you're gonna be mixing drinks like
That's probably true. That's probably true.
So I forget a lot. So I gotta jump in because I forget, which I'm doing right now. I'm forgetting. But I made some kind of comment, and you made the comment because I basically gave a definition of why I thought gentrification was happening. And you came back and we started talking, but I never heard your definition of why you think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm asking this as a question. When they say the textbook definition is saying the process whereby character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in. The part they're leaving out is for those wealthier people to move in, they had to move the poor people out. Mm-hmm. That's the part they're leaving out of this. So my question to you is, what do you think, in just your opinion, is the reason that they do gentrification rather than revitalization?
It gets more support. We talked about economic justice. It is easier to go in front of that legislature or that government entity and get money and support and those corporations for the gentrification than the revitalization, because people tend to support their own. And wrong, right, or indifferent, people tend to support their own. And so, those businesses that want to come in once it's been gentrified, the Jamba Juices and so on and so forth, it's a model. And going back, Pat, I know I mentioned like single moms, what have you, but basically what I was looking at is there is a model when it comes to gentrification. So have any of you ever heard the term DINKS?
What is it called?
DINKS, DINKS, dual income, no kids. That's who they target.
Okay.
If you look at Mass Ave, you look at these condos, these high rise, they don't have yards. There's nowhere for them kids to play. They don't have kids. They're not even going after that. They're going for DINKS, that middle age or fresh out of college, good incomes. We could do the same thing on our side, right? That target market. I mean, that's marketing 101, having that target market, knowing who you're going after for that neighborhood as far as revitalization, and later maybe you can build in more into the community, but they're going to target DINKS. And Pat, the only thing I'll challenge you, I know you're talking about, ninjas this, ninjas that. We all know who the most educated demographic in the US is.
Black women.
Black women.
Yeah, black women.
So they're out there. There's no dispute to that. That's not even up for debate. That's a fact.
Hey, look, hold on, Jimmy. You say that. Hey, there's a whole lot going on this wall right here.
And that's beautiful.
So hey, I challenge that too, but hey. No, I'm just messing with you. That was a joke right there.
No, that's cool, big man. But yeah, to answer your question, that's
you
why.
Did. You really did. And that makes a lot more sense. But then, and I hate to harp on it, but everything comes back to us for me. Because truthfully, in my opinion, at this point in stage of our community, we don't even really need the banks and stuff like that. See, we got enough millionaires, billionaires that are of black color that could do stuff like that, but we don't. They go out, listen, black people are not poor, they just got poor spending habits. So what happens is, instead of going back into the community, buying houses, revitalizing them, doing this and that, they go out and buy a McDonald's or a Five Guys or something that the black people are gonna go spend their money on. There's a lot of black people in the hood that'll go to a concert and not pay their light bill or their rent. So instead of the black dollars that we have, and we go back and we revitalize our neighborhoods, we're buying into predominantly white businesses, and then those same poor black people are paying into those businesses versus us going back and fixing our neighborhoods. And I just think more.
I wish, there's two major things that stand out to me when it comes to getting our people to that point. And number one being unity, and the second one being educated in something like that. And those are the two major things that I don't see happening in the near future for our people, and it hurts because without those two things, man, we go nowhere, and we repeat that circle, and it's very hard for those of us, as yourself, Mike, you, brother T, and all of us on this podcast tonight to kind of come to where do we start, and the hope and the faith and all of those things. It's kind of hard, you know.
Well, this is
something like that.
Yeah,
and we know that, and we see that, and the struggle is real, you know, brothers. You know, it's a lot of teaching going on here tonight, and it should be a lot of more people listening. But you know, once you face reality, it's not. And so the real question lies on how do we get our people, first of all, unified, and then to educate, and then to move forward. It's very tough, man.
So this is what a brother told me back when I used to study. I said, brother, you trying to save everybody and you can't. Everybody ain't supposed to come on the trip. And so a lot of times when we talk about certain things, it seems overwhelming. Like, where do I start? Think about the quote that Dr. King had where he said, the time is always right to do what is right. Like-minded people coming together to form certain things to build on those things that the talents that you have. Pat, you talked about resume, the things that you did in that, creating something that you can go in and whether it's 4 or 5 people, that's all you need. That's all you need to grow something. And you don't need to get 200 or 300. Just do what you do with those and build on that. And the same with what we're doing, the same with T, the same with Jimmy, the same with Brother Six. There's certain information that we all have. If we collectively come together and do our part, we can make it. And we have to do that. Like I knew movement is going back, as Jimmy said. The civil rights, we have to have our own movement, and that movement has to go back and re-educate and learn. But we have to have patience and mercy. The same patience and mercies that we ask the Most High to have on us is the same patience and mercy and grace that we got to have for those that are still in that thing. Because for the sake of, you know, for the grace of God, go I. It could have been me. It could have been any of us, but we got lucky. We decided to go to school. You decided to go to the military, go to college, go to the military. You decided to do something. You decided to join the nation. You decided to raise yourself up. Something in you happened. Some of these kids, and this is another topic for another day. I need some of them to be them wild card. I just need to show you and put discipline in that and show you how to do. Because if we ever get to the point of being able to create neighborhoods like we had before, I think about what happened in Rosewood or in Tulsa and in other areas. They'll come in and wipe you all the way out. So we're going to need some protection. We're going to need some other people to be there outside of just the police. So we're going to have to train people up.
What Brother P was talking about that strategy, about we just can't go in there unorganized no more, man. We can't come there.
There's ways, but we have to make the commitment. All of us of like mind have to make a commitment. Problem, to say,
ain't enough of us are willing to die for the cause no more, like in the 50s. See, them brothers and sisters back then was willing to die for something. You know, they stood for something. They just didn't fall for anything. So, and that's what I was just simply saying. I don't think it's enough of us that are willing to die for the cause these days because of the mentality that Brother Jim was talking about, and that is, you know, I'm gonna get mine. You best get yours. Type attitude. That ghetto mentality is heavy, brother. That's a lot of mental illness going on here.
Why not be willing to live? I want to live for mine. I want to live to grow old. You know what I'm saying?
Who have you helped and seen succeed, a success, a person that you took from the mud and brought up? How many of those that you have under your wing right now that you think back? We've been on this earth for almost 50 years, most of us on here. And what have I can't name but one or two. Now I don't know about the ones that heard me speaking or trying to motivate or trying to educate or unify that actually listened and was successful. But I know about 2. And I feel bad outside of my children and your family. That's not enough, is all I'm saying. And it's very hard to unify our people and educate. That's what I mean by when I say, where do you actually start? Do we start amongst ourselves? Do we start amongst our children? Or do we just keep plugging?
It always starts at home, and then those that you influence. Those that when your kids friends come over, that you talk to them the same way that Pat, that you talk to your son, your daughter's friends, or whatever. It starts in that. It starts in the organizations that we in.
I didn't say nothing.
I'm saying the same way that when you have your kids come over, or your son. You know what? You know what? Cut him off.
I follow you though, Mike. I mean, I think it's different levels. I mean, I think the question is, how do you start? Is you just start, right? So I think obviously I agree with you, Mike. We gotta protect the home front first, and then I think there's an individual commitment and responsibility that we don't need. We don't need any. None of us need a big group to go figure out where we can go to mentor some kids. That does not take some big organized effort. That takes just time and commitment. We can do that on the individual level. And I think where we kind of start this conversation is the next level is then how do we actually pool our resources together and then have a collective strategy. So I think there's multiple tiers, and there's goodness in all those tiers. But Six, I agree with you in terms of, again, my self-reflection. You know, my list of the challenges you said, like how many people can I name that I'm personally responsible outside of my family of helping them improve their condition, and it's embarrassing, and that's just. And that's not on anybody else. Yeah, that is specifically 100% on me to correct.
And that's a challenge that's a challenge that I would be willing to do, to come back at some point to say I've made a concerted effort to try to do that, because when you said that, Six, that hit. It's like, okay, instead of talking about it, we got to be about it. We got to go out there. It's not enough to have the program and say, okay, what am I actually doing? Who am I actually out there talking to? Who am I actually out there working with to try to make a difference? And I may not see those results immediately, because this is not a quick time. It's going to take a long time for us to see this thing through. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. There's things that we have to do. That's the only way, because we can't give up. Like we literally can't give up. So it's like, because if the people, there were people we hear, because there were people that came before us that knew that they would never, ever, ever see this. They knew that they was never gonna see their kids or their grandkids or great grandkids have anything, but they knew that they just had to keep on going, because one day. And that's where we stand on. So I have to have that kind of faith to say that if we just keep, and if I keep connecting with people that have a heart, that have some consciousness, that have some willingness to move the needle, then we can touch bases. And we ain't gonna be able to get any of them. But what we do need to start doing is differentiating ourselves between those that want and those that do not want.
That's right.
And just like those African proverbs, when we say we're not banishing you for life, but before you come back, you're gonna have some reconciliation, and you're gonna have to redeem yourself before we allow you into our community. But we got to start creating that community, whether it's just with us. We got to start creating a community that looks and has some type of structure, a culture, and some do's and don'ts. Then we can start saying, this is a model. You want to get into this, you got to follow these rules, because we not deviating from that. And to Six's point, we will die for this, because it's that important. But that being said, I think the lights was on. I think we got to have a part 2 or 3. I think we need to come back and have more conversation, maybe some more people on, that we can talk about how we
voted in as a permanent, brother.
Yeah, to put it in and figure out economic ways that we can come together, educating ourselves on ways that we can, invest, raise money, get our stuff together, and do those things. But with that,
Jimmy, you down?
No doubt.
I think you brother just got moved into the permanent.
Hey, Mike, I think in what you and Brother Six and everybody was saying, and even Big Pat is going to agree with this, we didn't solve the world's problems, but we did all agree that revitalization is going to start here and here.
Yes,
It's
sir.
going to be the heart from the minds of the people.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know, Pat.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that?
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with whatever y'all say, man.
See, there you go.
I agree with whatever y'all say.
Okay.
Whatever y'all say, I agree with.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we?
Gotta hang it up.
And by the way, Brother
Why
Six, you've been
can't
living here.
we be
My list is
friends?
long.
Mhm.
Long. My list is long. Matter of fact, we were just out 2 weeks ago, and one from my list came up and talked to you. Brother was home, on drugs, kicked out, didn't have nowhere to go. I helped him get back on track, got his VA benefits, got a house, bought a brand new house, bought a car, got off drugs. My list is long, brother. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's people like you that's doing it. We
Respect.
just got to catch
Respect.
up. Yeah, we just got to catch
that
up.
list is long.
Yeah, we got to catch up.
But I agree with you, brothers.
I don't like how you said it though.
Ask me a question.
I know that.
I
I
don't like
agree
the
with
tone.
this. I agree with my big brother. I don't like how I said.
I
He
don't
gonna
like the
call me.
tone.
Look, this is what he gonna do, Six. He gonna call me.
I don't
He
like
gonna
the
call me.
tone.
He gonna call me in the morning and be like, "Hey, listen. I'm the leader of this group.
When it's over with.
Look. I'm the leader of this group. And I don't like the way you talk.
You gonna do, Mike?
Hey, but all jokes aside, though, I really appreciate you brothers coming on here. I actually learned a lot. I meant it when I said I'd like to have you two brothers back, and I would like to do some kind of. Are you in the real estate, Brother Wells? Is that what you do?
Not anymore. I do own some, private like rental properties. I did commercial real estate for a corporation for a few years when I was in Indianapolis the first time. Yeah,
It's
so
all-
I was buying stations.
I
where they
don't
built.
think we really got an opportunity because Jimmy, I want you to talk about what you do, where you at, if you can, if you can't, then I understand. But do it, but T, yeah, tell a little bit about who you are and what you are, because we want. This is another thing that we want to do on this platform.
Yeah,
That
for
a lot of
part
times
two.
they talk about black men, we don't. Like we said, we know what we out here. And so we wanted to give you the opportunity to just talk about that and show that example for any young person that we out here. We ain't just ball players and entertainers. We also these things. And so what do you do as well, T?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm the professionally, I'm the CEO of a company called Dealers Wholesale. So
Wow.
we're in the building product space. So to simplify, we distribute and install fireplaces and doors in new residential and commercial properties here in Indianapolis. And we just acquired a second location in Milwaukee area.
Wow,
That's beautiful, brother.
that's beautiful.
T, what about you?
I hear you, Brother Rayford.
and Pat, you'll recognize this. I grew up in Whitmire, South Carolina, in Newberry County.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's only probably about 45 minutes from us.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Brother T.
Yep. So
But it's great. My brothers, they have their food truck, and Pat has been an entrepreneur. Both of them been an entrepreneur and done a number of things. And when you were talking before, T, about the military, I was like, Pat was a command sergeant major before he retired in the Army. So we are Army on this joint.
You was in the service too?
Oh,
Yep.
I was not.
Oh.
I wasn't.
You was, Brother T?
yes,
Okay.
Corps of Engineers.
You was an officer though.
Nope, Sergeant Wells. I didn't go. I could have went commission. I would not do it. If I'd
You
have made a
talk
career
like
out of
an
it, I would've- They begged me. They really did.
Yeah, you talk like an officer. I saw officer written all over you. I saw lieutenant.
Hey, he stayed with that Corps. No
Man.
one is more professional than I. I'm a non-commissioned officer.
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna go ahead.
They made no mistake. I was an NCO. I made Thomas walk in there. Hey, I took Brother Six with me one time. Hey, when I walked in that room, I demanded it, but Jack, And if they didn't, you heard me for 2 bills away. I cut a phone.
Hey, beautiful brother. I just want to say to our listeners and everybody out there, man, it's been a joy with our guest on tonight. We give a shout out to Fat Blood once again. Like I said, tell somebody to tell somebody, man. This is a great conversation amongst Black brothers, just trying to get the word out and get the conversation started in each and everyone's homes and amongst themselves. That what we talk about is from the heart. We don't judge, and it's our opinion. You know, don't take it wrong or right. However you see it fit it into your daily life to try and, you know, have this conversation with some of our people, because word of mouth is what's going to get this thing out, man, and get this ball rolling for each and every one of us. Take pride in yourself. You know, it all starts just like my homie said, man. It starts right here, and I'm saying that it starts with self. So look in the mirror and say, what can I do? So what have you done, you know, for your community, for your family, for your brothers and sisters that you know and love? You know, tell everyone every day, every hour, every moment that you get, thank you and I love you, because you never know when that last moment is going to come. So, man, I just say stay to the grind for those out there that are struggling and the ones that are successful and the ones that Mike was talking about in the middle. Don't slip. Stay the course. It's hard, but after difficulty comes ease.
There you go.
I'm gonna close with first. I want to tell Brother Wells and Brother Rice, I really do appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
To spend a little time with us. Those that are listening for the first time or are new to our podcast know that I'm, you know, I say a lot of stuff, but I do truly love our people. I'm a hard critic of our people, but I'm a hard critic of myself. And I really do. I just want to see us do better. I truly want to see us do better as a people. And the only way to do it, we got to be hard on ourselves and each other. So I same, what you want to call it, the same harshness to myself in my everyday life as I do to others. All honors to the Most High. And again, thank you, brothers, for taking this time to be with us. And I just pray that someone learns something from our conversations tonight.
Brother Wills, any last comments?
It's all love, and I just appreciate the opportunity to build. Like Jimmy said at the intro, you know, I needed this for my soul. So it was just good to fellowship and build. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother. Brother Jimmy, my man, what's up, doctor? What you got?
Yeah, I just appreciate the time, brothers. You know, it's not my first time, but I appreciate you guys welcoming. I love the conversation. The conversation should be spirited. You know, we don't have to agree on all points, but we agree that we're all in it for the betterment of our people. And and through this conversation, we'll learn and grow. And as we know, iron sharpens iron.
Indeed.
I love that right there.
Yeah. And I will say, again, shout out to 23rd Street. Always stand up, Louisville, Kentucky. It is always, I never lose sight, and it never gets old when I'm on a screen or I'm with my brothers and I can simply say this to the entire world, that I love you, brothers. I love y'all, because I love you too, bro. I love the energy, and I love you all as men. Like what y'all do, how y'all do it. I look up to you all. I watch you from afar. I see what you do in your lives, and I'm like, yo, I can apply that. I need to, and to everyone, especially our young Black men, or our Black men that are just trying to figure some things out. It's okay to tell another Black man that you love them when you mean it. And it's okay with no matter how old you are, how young, to look at another Black man and appreciate them. You don't have to be envious. Look at what they did, look at what they have, and then strive to be that. Surround yourself around those people and raise yourself up. And always encourage them, always be happy for their success, because don't block your blessings. And so, you know, I'm thankful to be in a room with beautiful human beings and brothers with the same thought process. You know, we do it a different way. So peace always to your families, your children, you know, to everyone that continues to tune in. We appreciate you. As we always say, tell a friend, tell another friend to join into this beautiful mosaic that we call the Back Alley Fella Podcast. And with that, since it's been a minute, we go out like this. The time is now, and the week is new, and you'll have more podcasts for you.
At you.
And we'll have things you want to talk about. Shall to see you later.